The official narrative tells us that the 19th century was an era of steady industrial progress. Steam engines, telegraphs, railroads, each innovation building logically on the last. But in 1851, London's Crystal Palace exhibition showcased 13,000 exhibitors from around the world. The building itself, constructed in just 9 months, used 293,655 panes of glass and covered 990,000 square feet. For context, that's larger than 5 modern Walmart supercenters combined, built in less time than most countries today can approve construction permits. The materials came from dozens of suppliers. The logistics required coordinating rail shipments, glass manufacturing at unprecedented scale, and ironwork precision that wouldn't be seen again until the 20th century. All of this orchestrated in a world where the fastest communication still traveled by horse. The structure stood. The exhibition opened on time. 6 million people visited. This is a documentary exploration of architectural and infrastructural anomalies in the historical record. What follows presents documented evidence and invites examination, not conclusion. The questions raised here deserve serious consideration, but viewers should research independently and think critically about all interpretations presented. The Crystal Palace wasn't an isolated marvel. Across Europe and North America, the mid-1800s saw an explosion of construction that seems to defy the technological limitations of its time. Grand central stations, exposition halls, government buildings, structures that required advanced metallurgy, precision engineering, and organizational systems that allegedly didn't exist yet. The timing creates friction. In 1863, London opened the world's first underground railway. The Metropolitan Railway moved 38,000 passengers on its first day. The tunnel stretched 375 miles beneath a city where sewage systems were still being debated, where cholera outbreaks killed thousands, where gas lighting was considered cutting-edge technology. Yet somehow, engineers successfully bored tunnels through clay and water tables, installed ventilation systems sophisticated enough to handle steam locomotives underground, and coordinated construction that avoided collapsing the streets above, all while the germ theory of disease was still 20 years from acceptance. The engineering worked. The trains ran. In Philadelphia, the Centennial Exhibition of 1876 covered 285 acres. The main exhibition building alone contained 21.5 acres under one roof, the largest building in the world at that time. It was designed and constructed in less than 2 years. The building featured a central heating system serving 450,000 square feet. The machinery hall showcased a 1,400 horsepower coreless steam engine that powered 8,000 machines through an intricate system of underground shafts and belts. 14,000 exhibitors displayed products. 10 million people visited over 6 months. This happened in a nation still recovering from civil war, in an era when most Americans lived on farms, in cities where horse manure remained the primary waste management challenge. The scale doesn't match the supposed capacity. Consider the administrative complexity alone. Coordinating 14,000 exhibitors requires paperwork systems, applications, approvals, space allocations, shipping manifests, customs documentation. It requires standardized forms, filing systems, communication networks. The kind of bureaucratic infrastructure we associate with the mid-20th century, not the 1870s. Yet the exhibition opened on schedule. Every exhibitor had space. The systems worked. This pattern repeats across continents. The Paris Exposition of 1889 built the Eiffel Tower, 18,000 iron pieces, 5 million rivets, assembled in 2 years, 2 months, and 5 days. The precision required meant that all 18,000 pieces had to be manufactured off-site to tolerances of less than 1 millimeter, then transported and assembled without modern cranes or welding equipment. Gustave Eiffel's team accomplished this using hand-drawn blueprints and manual calculations. No computers. No CAD software. No digital modeling. The tower stood perfectly balanced, exactly as planned. The mathematical precision seems incompatible with the tools available. In Chicago, the World's Columbian Exposition of 1893 transformed 600 acres of swampland into the White City in just 2 years. The fair featured 200 new buildings, 65 miles of railroads, an electric lighting system that used 3 times more electricity than the entire city of Chicago, and a moving sidewalk that transported thousands of visitors daily. This happened in 1893, the same year Edison's film studio was still experimental, the same year when most American homes had no electricity, the same year when horseless carriages were laboratory curiosities. The technological gap creates questions. Daniel Burnham, the fair's chief architect, coordinated with Frederick Law Olmsted on landscaping, brought in 12,000 workers and organized suppliers from around the world. The logistics required telegraph communication, railway coordination, and management hierarchies that functioned flawlessly. 27 million people visited over 6 months. The infrastructure handled them all. What makes these examples particularly notable is their consistency. Different continents, different architects, different governments, yet the approach remains remarkably similar. Massive scale, rapid construction, technological sophistication that seems slightly beyond contemporary capacity, and organizational systems that function at modern efficiency levels. The buildings featured central heating, advanced ventilation, electric lighting systems, elevators, running water, and sewage management. These weren't primitive structures upgraded later. They were designed with these systems integrated from the beginning. The level of coordination suggests knowledge that official timelines place decades in the future. The documentation exists. The photographs remain. The structure stood, many for decades, some still standing today. But the question persists: how did societies that allegedly struggled with basic sanitation simultaneously master construction projects requiring precision engineering, materials science, and organizational complexity that wouldn't be formally systematized until the 20th century? The timing seems compressed. The capability seems inherited rather than invented. And these were just the exhibition halls. The permanent infrastructure tells a deeper story. While World's Fairs came and went, certain construction projects across America and Britain suggest planning horizons that extend far beyond immediate need. Projects that seem to anticipate demand that didn't yet exist. The Erie Canal provides the earliest example. Completed in 1825, the canal stretched 363 miles from Albany to Buffalo, connecting the Atlantic Ocean to the Great Lakes. The official history presents this as visionary infrastructure, and it was. But the scale of the vision creates questions. The canal was 40 feet wide and 4 feet deep. It featured 83 locks to manage 565 feet of elevation change. The construction required moving millions of cubic yards of earth using hand tools, horses, and black powder. Engineers designed aqueducts to carry the canal over rivers, built stone locks to exacting specifications, and maintained consistent grade over hundreds of miles of varied terrain. This happened starting in 1817. A time when the United States had virtually no civil engineering tradition, no engineering schools, and no experienced canal builders. The chief engineer, Benjamin Wright, was a surveyor and judge with no formal engineering training. Yet the canal worked perfectly from opening day. The mathematics required seemed beyond the available expertise. Calculating water flow rates, lock dimensions, and structural loads demands hydrology knowledge and engineering principles that weren't formally taught in America until decades later. The locks had to be precisely sized. Too small and boats couldn't pass, too large and water waste would be unsustainable. Wright's team got it right on the first attempt. Over 363 miles. The canal immediately became profitable, transforming New York into America's commercial capital. Within 15 years, it had paid for itself. The economic impact was so dramatic that it triggered a canal building boom across the nation. But here's what creates friction. The traffic volume that made the Erie Canal profitable required a pre-existing commercial network, suppliers, distributors, manufacturers, ready to utilize it immediately. The infrastructure suggests anticipation of demand rather than response to it. The capacity existed before the need became visible. The pattern intensifies with railways. Between 1850 and 1870, America built 45,000 miles of railroad track. For perspective, that's enough to circle the Earth 8 times. The construction happened during a period that included the Civil War, multiple financial panics, and massive social upheaval. The rail networks didn't grow organically from town to town. They followed systematic patterns, trunk lines, branch connections, terminal hubs, suggesting comprehensive planning rather than incremental expansion. The Philadelphia and Reading Railroad, incorporated in 1833, built 93 miles of track in its first 3 years. The route required tunnels, bridges, embankments, and cuts through mountainous terrain. The engineering specifications anticipated locomotives that wouldn't be manufactured for another decade. The grades were gentle enough for future steam engines. The curves were wide enough for trains that didn't yet exist. The bridges bore weight ratings exceeding anything currently running. Someone was building for what came next, not what existed then. In Britain, the same pattern emerged earlier. The Liverpool and Manchester Railway, opened in 1830, featured engineering that seems prescient. George Stephenson's designs included track gauge specifications, 4 feet 5 inches, that became the global standard. The choice wasn't random, it was precisely the width needed for optimal stability at speeds that contemporary locomotives couldn't reach. The Manchester terminus included platforms, ticket offices, waiting rooms, and freight facilities organized with an efficiency that suggests experience with passenger volumes that hadn't yet materialized. On opening day, the systems handled crowds smoothly. The infrastructure preceded the traffic it would serve. Urban water systems present similar anomalies. Boston's Cochituate Aqueduct, completed in 1848, brought water from Lake Cochituate through 14 miles of underground conduits. The system delivered 7.5 million gallons daily to a city of 136,000 people, roughly 55 gallons per person per day. For comparison, modern water systems recommend 50 to 100 gallons per person per day. Boston's 1848 system was already designed to modern standards, anticipating future demand with remarkable accuracy. The conduits were large enough to serve a city double Boston's size. The valve systems, control mechanisms, and distribution networks functioned with sophistication that supposedly wouldn't be systematized until the Progressive-era sanitation reforms, 60 years later. Someone was building as if they knew exactly what future populations would require. London's sewage system reveals the same pattern. Joseph Bazalgette's network, built between 1859 and 1875, included 1,100 miles of street sewers feeding into 82 miles of main intercepting sewers. The main sewers were brick tunnels large enough to walk through, some over 11 feet in diameter. The system was designed to serve a population of 4 million. When construction began, London's population was 2.8 million. Bazalgette included capacity calculations for population growth extending decades into the future, using demographic projection methods that weren't formally developed until the 20th century. The system still functions today, serving a much larger population than officially anticipated. It was, from the beginning, over-engineered for its time. The precision suggests inherited knowledge rather than innovative guesswork. Grain elevators present perhaps the most striking example. Joseph Dart's steam-powered grain elevator in Buffalo, completed in 1843, could unload 1,000 bushels of grain per hour. The structure featured conveyor systems, storage bins, and loading mechanisms that automated what had been manual labor. Within a decade, Buffalo had dozens of these facilities. The grain transportation network, from Midwest farms through the Great Lakes to Buffalo's elevators to Erie Canal boats to New York markets, functioned as an integrated system. But the integration is what creates questions. For this network to function efficiently, every component had to exist simultaneously. The farms producing surplus grain, the lake ships designed to carry bulk cargo, the elevators to transfer it, the canal boats sized appropriately, and the market demand to absorb it all. The system emerged fully formed, not incrementally. Across the Atlantic, British coal infrastructure followed identical patterns. Port facilities with mechanized loading, rail networks connecting mines to ports, storage facilities anticipating demand, all built decades before the consumption patterns that would justify them. The South Wales coal ports expanded rapidly between 1830 and 1850, building capacity that wouldn't be fully utilized until the 1880s. The docks were deeper than current ships required. The rail connections served mines not yet operating. The storage facilities anticipated export volumes that seemed fantastical. Yet when demand materialized, the infrastructure was ready. The administrative systems mirrored the physical infrastructure. These projects required standardized contracts, insurance frameworks, property law, labor regulations, and accounting systems that could track complex multi-year expenditures across multiple jurisdictions. Those frameworks existed. They functioned efficiently. They left paper trails that historians can follow. But the sophistication of the administrative machinery seems inconsistent with societies we're told were still largely agrarian, still decades from developing modern corporate structures, still working out basic regulatory frameworks. The organizational capacity suggests. The name Tartaria first appears in European maps during the medieval period. It was a catch-all term for the vast territories stretching across Central Asia and Siberia, regions European cartographers knew existed but understood poorly. The word derived from Tatar, referring to various Turkic and Mongol peoples. On maps from the 1600s and 1700s, Tartaria, labeled enormous swaths of territory with minimal detail, a geographic placeholder for lands beyond European knowledge. The term gradually disappeared from maps as exploration increased and more specific regional names emerged. By the mid-1800s, Tartaria had faded from cartographic use, replaced by more accurate territorial designations. That's the conventional understanding. In recent years, a different interpretation has emerged. This perspective suggests that Tartaria referenced not just a geographic region but a predecessor civilization, one whose architectural and infrastructural legacy persisted long after its political structures dissolved. According to this interpretation, the anomalies documented in earlier phases aren't anomalies at all. They're evidence of inheritance. The theory proposes that many 19th-century construction projects were actually restoration or repurposing efforts, taking existing structures from an earlier era and adapting them to new uses. The speed of construction, the architectural sophistication, the infrastructural capacity that seems to anticipate future demand, all of this makes sense if the foundation already existed. The mud flood hypothesis fits within this framework. It suggests a catastrophic event, possibly related to the climate disruption of 1815 to 1816, buried or damaged structures across multiple continents. The subsequent construction boom represented recovery and adaptation rather than original building. This interpretation treats the physical evidence seriously. The buildings exist. The infrastructure functions. The organizational capacity was real. But it reframes the timeline, suggesting these achievements had precursors we no longer acknowledge. A second interpretation approaches the question through technological diffusion. This perspective accepts the conventional timeline but argues for earlier knowledge transfer than officially recognized. It suggests that engineering principles, organizational methods, and construction techniques circulated globally through informal networks, trade routes, migrant craftsmen transmitted manuscripts, long before formal academic institutions systematized them. Under this model, Benjamin Wright didn't invent canal engineering. He applied techniques already practiced elsewhere, adapted to American conditions. The Crystal Palace didn't represent unprecedented achievement but rather the synthesis of existing knowledge applied at scale. This interpretation explains the consistency across regions. If knowledge networks were more sophisticated than official histories suggest, similar solutions would emerge in different places because they drew from common understanding. The speed of construction makes sense if the knowledge base already existed, waiting for economic conditions and political will to activate it. The apparent anticipation of future demand becomes reasonable if builders were working from established principles rather than inventing as they went. This view maintains conventional chronology but challenges assumptions about how knowledge moved through 19th-century society. A third interpretation returns to orthodox historical explanation while acknowledging the friction points. This perspective argues that human capability under pressure consistently exceeds what seems possible in retrospect. The 19th century represented a unique convergence: post-Enlightenment scientific thinking, industrial capital accumulation, population growth creating labor supply, and political systems willing to fund massive projects. According to this view, the apparent anomalies result from underestimating what coordinated human effort can accomplish. The Crystal Palace seems impossible until you account for 2,000 workers operating under intense deadline pressure. The Erie Canal seems beyond contemporary capability until you consider that 9,000 laborers worked simultaneously along its length. The organizational sophistication existed because necessity created it. Projects demanded coordination, so coordination systems emerged. Infrastructure anticipated future demand because planners were optimistic about growth, and their optimism proved justified. This interpretation asks us to take historical actors at their word. They built what they said they built when they said they built it, using the methods they described. The achievement reflects human ingenuity rather than hidden inheritance. The evidence invites examination without demanding conclusion. Return to 1816. The year without a summer. The Tambora eruption in 1815 ejected so much ash into the atmosphere that 1816 saw crop failures across the northern hemisphere. Snow fell in June in New England. Frost killed crops in July. Famine spread across Europe. Hundreds of thousands died. The climate disruption lasted 3 years. Then conditions normalized. What followed was the construction boom documented in Phase 1 and Phase 2. The timing is noteworthy. Recovery from catastrophe coincided with infrastructure expansion at unprecedented scale. One interpretation sees this as inherited capacity revealed by necessity. Another sees coordinated response enabled by existing knowledge networks. A third sees human resilience and innovation under pressure. The physical evidence doesn't inherently favor any single explanation. The metaphor matters here. Whether we're discussing literal inheritance from a predecessor civilization, knowledge transfer through informal networks, or orthodox historical explanation, we're asking the same fundamental question. How do we account for capability that seems slightly beyond what the official timeline suggests should be possible? The buildings stand. The infrastructure functioned. The organizational systems worked. These are documented facts. The interpretation of those facts remains open. The documentary evidence is extensive. Engineering reports, financial records, newspaper accounts, photographs, and the structures themselves provide material for examination. What's missing is consensus on what that evidence means. Some see continuity where official history sees disruption. Others see hidden networks where conventional accounts see isolated innovation. Still others see human achievement at the margins of what seems possible. All three interpretations engage seriously with the physical record. All three acknowledge the friction points. They differ on what explains the friction. The question isn't whether 19th century societies built ambitious infrastructure. They clearly did. The question is whether our understanding of their capability, knowledge base, and organizational systems adequately accounts for what they accomplished. The timing of innovations, the scale of projects, the sophistication of engineering, and the consistency of approaches across regions create patterns that invite explanation. Perhaps the capacity was inherited. Perhaps knowledge networks were more advanced than recognized. Perhaps human ingenuity under favorable conditions exceeds our assumptions. The evidence remains available for examination. The structures still stand, some still functioning according to their original specifications. The documentation fills archives. What we make of it depends on which friction points we find most significant, which explanations we find most compelling, and which assumptions about the past we're willing to question.